people that get into tracking macros initially, they have the misconception that it's super rigid, right? Like you have to have 62 grams of fat exactly, and you have to weigh out every single meal, right? And I think maybe you guys probably had that initially when you started tracking, and you've learned sort of how to particularly go and eat out and estimate things. So how do you guys individually balance tracking your macros, right? Just the holidays came up. So when you travel, when you go and eat out, do you have any particular tips with not being so OCD about any specific number, and then how you do that?
Yeah, and as you start to track longer, you get to know like certain desserts that maybe are lower in fat than others that you didn't know about. So when you're at a restaurant, everyone's ordering dessert, maybe you get that dessert. Or just foods in general that I didn't know maybe were so high in fat. I try and avoid those going to restaurants because they're usually even higher in fat than when you make them at home.
Right.
So I never go to a restaurant and avoid ordering with my friends or family. It's really just finding things that are healthier when you make them at home, and then kind of estimate a little bit higher when you're at the restaurant.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think along with that too, leading up to if you go out to dinner with your friends or your family, you're eating well before you get there. So you're eating enough veggies throughout the day. You have enough protein. Usually when you go out to eat, if you're at a party, protein sources are usually lacking. So maybe not when you go out to dinner, but at parties and things like that. So just knowing that you ate enough before you get there, that way you're not going off the rails when you're there too. You're feeling full and you're feeling satiated. Just kind of helps a little bit. So I make sure, even on like holidays, like Christmas Eve, I go over to my family's house for dinner. But in the morning, I have oatmeal, I have some veggies, I have some protein, like I have a sound meal. And then I'll probably have another lunch if it's a later dinner. Or if it's an evening meal, it's probably the only meal I'll eat beforehand. I'll have something after I train, and then I'll go to my family's. But balance is really important. If you tell yourself you can't eat something, you're going to drive yourself nuts.
Yeah.
So I think over time, I think we've both learned that, being on a team with Andrea last year, we were pretty flexible with our diet, but we knew when to track down our meals when we needed to. So we knew when to dial it in and when we could dial it back.
Right. Yeah, and I think oh, go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, I was going to say, like, for instance, last night my family went out to this restaurant. I knew I was going with them, and I love their burgers. So knowing that that's probably not the healthiest option on the menu, I made sure that I was on track for breakfast and lunch with protein and not really treating myself during the day.
Was it Red Cow?
No, it was Surly Brewing Company. Great burgers.
That's a new one.
Dang.